Hello and welcome to the 55th Radical Poetry Reading. I'm Malva Kajali, Special Projects Associate here at the Rail, and today I have the pleasure and privilege of welcoming poet, literary critic, and art historian David Shapiro, who has lovingly curated such a wonderful lineup of poets and readers for us today. You see them all here in the Zoom. This reading will be featuring Michael Palmer, Kate Farrell, Charles North, and Joanna Fuhrman. A few quick notes before we get started. For the month of October and beyond, we'd like to start by thanking the Dermot Company for supporting this month of the new social environment. And as the Rail is celebrating its 21st anniversary this October, you can learn more about them and the Rail's curatorial projects at 66 Rockwell through the links in the chat. The Rail team is all here. We'll be helping out with tech. If you have any questions, please let us know in the chat. And closed captions are available by pressing the live transcript button on the bottom of the Zoom screen. We've started out all of our events here with two important acknowledgements. The first is that here in New York, we're on Lenapehoking, the unceded land and waters of the Wapinger, Canarsie, Munsee, and Lenni Lenape people of the Delaware Nation and the Shinnecock Indian Nation. The second is an acknowledgement that Black Lives Matter. And the heart of both of these acknowledgements is a commitment to the liberation of the oppressed and solidarity for all those who struggle for freedom, in recognition that when it comes to our liberation, our histories never unfold in isolation. That thought coming from the wonderful Angela Davis. And in that spirit, I encourage you to check out in the chat, where I'll drop in a moment a living document of resources and actions. But we'll get right into it. So today it's my honor to welcome our wonderful curator, author of 11 previous books of poems, as well as monographs on John Ashbery, Jim Dean, Jasper Johns, and Mondrian. David Shapiro is the author of In Memory of an Angel, which came out with City Lights Books in 2017. I was going to say last year. It feels recent. A child prodigy on the violin, he went on to become a literary and art critic, and he holds a PhD from Columbia University, where he also taught, and an MA from Cambridge. He has received numerous awards, including from the NEA, the NEH, the Graham Foundation, and many, many more. He was nominated for the National Book Award and is an advisory board member of the Brooklyn Rail. He also has a deep sense of co-curation of a life in arts and letters. He's done collaborative work with Alfred Leslie, Archie Rand, Terry Winters, Richard Hall, and many more, and has created a monument to Jan Polak in Prague with John Hejduk, and has published a monograph on prayer with Derrida and Michael Gavrin, and really so much more. We're so privileged to have you with us today, David, and without further ado, take it away.
Thank you. So we're now free to say anything?
We're now free to say anything.
Just wonder about that. In 1968, we got beaten up for what we thought about. And Václav Havel, whom I'm dedicating this reading to, was constantly jailed and really treated badly. And it reminded me, since we were talking about Robert Longo yesterday, we were talking about how one can handle something which is so horrifying. And when I got to Prague, one of the things that I learned was that the mother was there, the mother of the boy who burnt himself alive. And did I want to hear a tape recording of his screams? They asked me. So it was an amazing time to see many people together. And now we have, I'm just going to read one poem, which you said was okay to do that. Is that okay? So here's The Funeral of Jan Palach, a poem that I wrote almost the moment when Palach killed himself by fire. Here's how it goes. When I entered the first meditation, I escaped the gravity of the object. I experienced the emptiness, and I have been dead a long time. When I had a voice you could call a voice, my mother wept to me, my son, my beloved son. I never thought this possible. I'll follow you on foot. Halfway in mud and slush, the microphones picked up. It was raining on the houses. It was snowing on the police cars. And so the birthday girl down, down, down to the practice mat, unwinding the power of her spine behind her. Here's the owl that hoots no more, dazzled by headlights as it were, and stepped. I'm just going to stop there. But I hope you can all go to Prague and see this amazing monument that is up with my poem, which then was decent.
All right, and these are a few images of the monument.
Near their opera. And John Hayek had a poem of mine that you just heard. And so I've been very lucky. Connie Beckley, a composer, has set it to music, the poem of mine. And people in Prague were really, it was amazing to me how a poem like this could suddenly appear, even at Cooper Union, where the kids had also. Anyway, I want to stop here and just say, I hope you all get to Prague one day and see it. So that's about it.
How fantastic. Really looking forward. We'll all meet in Prague. So, David has curated a beautiful, beautiful lineup of poets. And kicking us off, opening up this space for us, is the wonderful poet Michael Palmer. Michael Palmer was born into an Italian-American family in Manhattan in 1943 and has lived in San Francisco since '69, a very landmark year. He's taught at numerous universities across the US, Europe, and Asia, and has published translations from a whole host of languages, in particular French, Brazilian Portuguese, and Russian. He's been involved similarly to David in the project of co-curation and joint projects with many, many visual artists and composers in this country and elsewhere, and has served as an artistic collaborator with the Margaret Jenkins Dance Company for about 50 years. His most recent collection is Little Elegies for Sister Satan, which came out with new directions just earlier this year. I'll post a link, check it out. Later this year, Nightboat will be bringing out a new edition of a prose work of his, The Danish Notebook. Without further ado, Michael, take it away. And you should be able to turn on your microphone.
Good? Yeah. Okay. So I'll just read a few poems from my new collection, which is called Little Elegies for Sister Satan. And it's from the second section, which is titled World Enough. And let me put my watch in front of me. By the way, I'm very pleased to be in such wonderful company. And thank you to David and the Rail for the invitation to participate. This poem is called All. All the beautiful women in my life were called Sadie or sadist. I forget the color of that flower, also its name, now that you ask where I have been these past few months between the solstice and the total eclipse of all that we once had known or thought mistakenly to know. Perhaps the snow blinded us, or we gazed too long at the startled sun, forgetting our strict instructions like so many others who had assembled there for the event that came and went without a word, without a breath, while the dancers, so young, filled the streets and the fields with a sort of silent song, thinking they could go on and on. The next one is called Hotel New York. Well, let's see. Here's my Hotel New York hat from Rotterdam. I'll wear it for this event. The hotel of my childhood spoke several languages at once. I marked the box for none of the above and pointed to the sign, no pets allowed. The river froze solid that winter. and the kindly whores huddled in doorways, their liveness undiminished to my eyes. Ice seemed more beautiful than childhood, its enveloping silence and bluish light, no words required, only the premonitory winds of change assembling along the half-deserted avenues. The hotel of my childhood spoke several languages at once in its desperate need to be loved by its privileged guests, its celebrants and suicides, now here, now gone. The hotel of my childhood, by the way, was in Manhattan on 46th Street between 5th and 6th Avenue. And I think there I'm referring to the great blizzard of 1948, was it? I think, when the Hudson River froze, before the globe had warmed that much. This is called the Cats of Cremona. When a silent symphony engulfed the city, I don't need to wear the hat anymore. The Cats of Cremona. When a silent symphony engulfed the city, even the naked emperor was forced to sing. When the snows of yesteryear suddenly reappeared, the poets of dust drew a deep breath and said, let us begin. Let us begin again, not from the beginning, but from the end. And when everywhere the E strings suddenly burst, the Cats of Cremona flashed a smile that lit the deep night, so that even night's hooded guardians retreated in fright, and the bell towers and spires trembled at the sound, and the novels of romance untold their tales of corsets and rustling silk, and who knows what. And who knows what. When a silent symphony engulfed the city, even the solid citizens were forced to dance, twirling on their crutches as one, undoubtedly a kind of waltz. As the naked emperor watched from above, a stain of secret knowledge on his lips that only the Cats of Cremona could see. And in the ancient twisting streets below, each of us recited our silent parts, sleepers and singers both, caught between thought and breath as the emperor fondled our naked hearts. Let's see, maybe time for one more. This is called The Bell, and it's dedicated to the great musician Wadada Leo Smith. To complete the tune, the trumpeter raises the ember, the glowing coal to his lips, the pentacle, the pistol to his lips between known time and no time. To complete the tune, after a chorus about silences and seasons, after a chorus about hours before evening, hours that accelerate as day wanes, hours like pages torn from a notebook and fluttering to the floor, pages of new snow, snow that like a tune is silent, snow, excuse me, with a hint of blue in it, here and there like a tune. To complete the tune, he raises the bell of the horn, there where he and the bell of the horn are alone, knowing that the music in the room and on the stairs is not his own, knowing that he must undo the tune, that it must not flow, must come out wrong, since such is song. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. I love so much the poets of dust said, "Let us begin again." So many good lines. And thank you for opening us up in such a mystical way. Next up, we have the wonderful Kate Farrell. Poet Kate Farrell's 7 books include Sleeping on the Wing, an anthology of modern poetry with essays on reading and writing, which is a volume co-authored with the poet Kenneth Koch that's been widely used in pedagogy and syllabi all throughout high school and college classrooms everywhere. Farrel has taught writing at Columbia University and elsewhere, and her work has appeared in many a journal and anthology, including 3 editions of the Best Spiritual Writing series. Her most recent volume is Visiting Night at the Academy of Longing, a collection of poems, and I'll drop a link below. Kate, take it away.
Okay, am I heard? Yes.
You are heard.
Thank you, Malvika and Brooklyn Rail and David for bringing us all together. The first poem I'll read is a dream poem about meeting the poet T.S. Eliot in the afterlife. It's called 4 Quartets, after Eliot's renowned poem of that name. 4 Quartets. I met T.S. Eliot in a dream last night. I'd gone to the afterlife to visit relatives, and he was stepping from a doorway, very preoccupied and serious. I went up and told him how much I admired 4 Quartets, that it stood apart in the history of poetry, that I wished I could write a long poem of that stature. He said, "You can. Write 10 lines of impeccable honesty, the next day 10 more, and so on until it's finished." He said he was revising 4 quartets, and I could almost see, given the altered vantage point, where the changes might be. Hearing he was about to read the latest draft aloud, I asked to stay and listen, and he agreed. They set me up a chair in the hull of a largish boat moored at the lakeside to undergo repairs. Eliot stood on the shore, facing the lake and me, the new 4 quartets in hand, and began to read.
And I think we may have lost her for just a moment, but never fear, she'll be right back. We all know Wi-Fi is tricky these days. And I think on that note,
entranced by the beauty of the evening and the sight and sound of a woman walking there singing. The costume. I once went to a costume party dressed as Wallace Stevens' poem, The Idea of Order at Key West, a plan that arose in my local Salvation Army thrift store at the sight of a translucent dusk blue silk chiffon dress, a floor-length 30s era garment. It hung lightly from the sales rack with a matching opaque slip and a hand-penned price tag of $3.99. Back in my apartment, I wrote the lines of the poem, or as many as would fit, with invisible glue on the dress, front and back, neckline to hem. When sprinkled with glitter, the words came into view, glistening like the surf that washed the twilit seashore where the woman in the poem walked along singing. The costume party was loud and crowded. "Who are you dressed as?" a guest would shout above the clamor. "The idea of order at Key West," I'd yell back. A lark in part, but the real inducement was to wear the blue air of a poem I loved, with glints of the shimmer of its darkening port, the atmosphere of its ruminations, its state of mind and sense of the world. It was also the most beautiful thing I ever wore. Even so, I was almost not sorry to pick it up at the cleaners a few days after the party and find that every speck of glue and glitter, every word and line was gone, as at the end of the poem, after the song is over and the spellbound listeners head back to town, past the boats, glassy portals and stars in the water. The coast once more, a night blue swath of wind and surf and thrift shops of chiffon, a mystery with a price tag in a Cornell box. This one entitled This one entitled Blue Smoke is set in the Oklahoma Dust Bowl, where my father grew up, one of 11 children in a poor farm family. Blue Smoke. One day, not long before he died, my father told me about the night his mother took him with her to sit with the mother of a dying 16-year-old girl. He remembered walking at 9 or 10 years old with his mother across the twilit Oklahoma fields to the house of a Dust Bowl farm family with many children like his own. Wooden crosses beneath the shade trees back behind the house marked the graves of the girl's siblings who'd succumbed, as she would, to tuberculosis. All night, the three of them kept watch over the comatose girl, the women at times conferring in low voices, till at dawn, he saw what looked like blue smoke rise from the girl's chest area, seeming to momentarily take the form of the girl herself, then was gone. It was her soul rising to heaven, his mother told him. But after they walked back home that morning, they didn't speak of it again. In retrospect, he said, it was above all the mysterious benevolence of the night's events that allayed his trepidations about the fate of the girl's Lutheran soul and his own Catholic one, an effect that stayed with him over the years, outweighing admonitions from the pulpit. As for his reticence about it, he said that as a physician, you see all kinds of things you keep to yourself to preserve your credibility. A dying child converses with a deceased relative or lifts his arms toward a light no one else sees. But as he raised his 90-year-old arms to illustrate, I saw the boy who walked back home that morning, past the burial crosses, hand in hand with his mother in her faded farm dress and worn out shoes, the woman who would take it upon herself to inform the boy that he was going to be a doctor. One last poem, also about my father, is a short dream poem entitled Metaphysics. Metaphysics. For a while after he died, my father didn't seem to discern dream visitors, but I was amazed nonetheless to witness his swift and serene rejuvenation. From time to time, I'd find him dining outdoors in beautiful locales, a multicolored grain on his plate I'd never seen elsewhere. Yes, laughed the server. It's a staple here, a sort of national dish, I guess, like potatoes in Ireland, pasta in Italy, couscous in Morocco, rice in Japan or Madagascar. We can't get enough of it, and it's remarkably nutritious. What's it called, I asked. She replied, metaphysics. Thank you.
Kate, how fantastic. It was a beautiful, beautiful reading. Everyone, I've dropped the link to Kate's most recent book in the chat. I love that idea that it was the most beautiful thing you'd ever worn, like you as Cinderella, wearing the most beautiful poem and dropping it off at the dry cleaners afterwards. Thank you so much. And next up, we'll hear from poet Charles North. One moment, though, I'll just update the settings. Okay. Poet Charles North's most recent publication is En Face, the third collaboration with painter Trevor Winkfield that he has done, and it came out just earlier this year with Milton Art Bank over in Pennsylvania. His new and selected What It Is Like, which came out with Turtle Point Hanging Loose in 2011, headed NPR's Best Poetry Books of the Year, and his recent collection Everything and Other Poems, which came out with The Song Cave last year, was named a New York Times New and Noteworthy Book. He's also been a poet laureate for us at the Rail. He most recently read for our new social environment series on August 16th of this year to close us out in style after a conversation with the artist Joanna Fuhrman. Without further ado, Charles, take it away.
Thank you. Thanks to you and the Rail and to David. I thought I'd read 3 poems from the new book, Everything and Other Poems. The first is sort of medium length and the other 2 are very short. And the first is in memory of somebody who was very important to me as a poet, also very important to David and Kate. It's called Desk, and it's dedicated to Kenneth Koch. Desk. I am the whole desk, the couch for everything. Desk from above. I'm the varnished top, don't write about me. Varnish. The daylight's wish, realism's splash. Disc. Oh, so sûr. Olivetti, letter 32. I'm not Italian, I am from Spain, but I remain the writer's writer's writer. Jaw-shaped stapler. I remind myself of the old U of Alabama and later NFL QB Ken the Snake Stabler. Post-it, the poster boy of the past. Box of Post-its, cherry, lime, eggplant, squash, banana, tangerine, and every other food color known to humans. Gooseneck lamp with clamp. What are you trying to hide? Paperclip. I join things at the hip. 1-inch paper clamp. Democracy has to turn its eye on itself periodically if it is to function politically, socially, economically, ethically, even, many would say, logically. Coffee mug. I am the coffee's mug, the brain's kisser. Saucer. Although virtually invisible in the normal course of things, I never think of myself as infra-dig. Drawer in quotes. I'm the one and only drawer-like space underneath the hinged piano lid of a top. The score for inner voices, the artist along with the model, brushes, tubes of paint, and various mediums, oh mousse of possible worlds. Metal mesh wastebasket. As everyone knows, the task is to get around me. Digital alarm clock. I don't hate you, I try to remain neutral. Words from KK in a 3x5 spiral notebook with a green cover. The poem I meant to write. Love me or leave me and let me be lonely. Postcards taped to the wall behind. Vladimir Mayakovsky, Pee Wee Herman, The Avenue at Middle Harness, the cover of La Doublure by Raymond Roussel, excerpt from Dorothy Wordsworth's journals, Still Life with Fruit and Vegetables by Cotin, Chambre de Stéphane Mallarmé, Superbia by Bruegel, etc. The perfect poem. I am the perfect poem inside the desk, though not in a shallow drawer-like space underneath the top, not taped to the wood of the metal hinge, and not accessible while the desk exists in its present form. Typewriter ribbon. I am the inky tabula rasa, the red carpet for the poem to come. Blue plastic box with stamps, ink pad, return address stamp, pilot pen, and pocket calculator. The desk's corner mailbox. File cabinet. If wishes were horses, false starts would be secretariat. Photo of Jimmy Schuyler in his 20s. I am the desk's inspirations, heart's springtime. The poets, Eiffel Towers, vistas meadow, strewn with early crocuses and dandelions. Scotch tape and scissors, highly rated surgical team. Portable fan, 1, being's respiration, 2, the wind in close-up. Words from KK, 2. John Ashbery prefers to sneak out of a poem. William Carlos Williams. What girl will care for us, do you think, if we continue in these ways? Wallace Stevens. I'm stuck inside the binding. Green magic marker, Ooh. NYU retractable ballpoint pen, gift from Mike. Washington Square Park, framed in the moment's leafy plein air. Keats paperweight. I'm the one with the well-known Severn portrait. I wish I could, but I can't prevent ideas for poems or anything else from blowing away. This is a short one called Cinematheque. I mean, who isn't heating up for the next life on the order of Antoine Doinel or a pot of unsweetened chocolate? Beginning with a single window and the sense that what we know outgrows everything except a headache or the desk dreaming on its own. It doesn't matter if being upright brings living beings closer to the lives they lead. One's 26-year-old self smokes a cigar but isn't a desperado. Nor is beginning a poem with someone's wrath a means of stepping outside the self as though volume equaled flesh tones, any more than the epic of the roast chicken with Lyonnaise potatoes and buttered greens takes over the above ground, colors and smells pushed aside. And the last one is a tiny prose poem called Piece of a Rhapsody. This has the word fake book in it, which I'm using in the sense that I grew up with. I played the clarinet and sax, and musicians had fake books which had a lot of standard tunes in them, and they would improvise and play jazz and things like that. So that's the kind of fake book in this one. Piece of a Rhapsody. The dawn turns into a maple tree, then a fake book from the windy 1940s, then back into dawn and speaks. It would be nice if writing as well as reading took a lot less time. That, by the way, is chapter 1. With the net out, shaded in or not, and the sadder exclamations, Sprocket and Well-Wisher, sending a pigeon as an envoy, just in case. As for the suggestion that the natural world is no more constructed than a plan de Paris, it was followed by a thin cloud of reddish smoke, more plum than scarlet, spattered by daylight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Charles. Everyone, I've dropped Charles's recent books in the chat. Please check them out. Very excited for the collaboration with Trevor Wingfield. And next up, we have Joanna Fuhrman. So poet Joanna Fuhrman is the author of 6 books of poetry, including To a New Era with Hanging Loose Press this year. Look for that. She's a former poetry editor for Ping Pong and Boog City and served as the Monday night coordinator for the poetry readings at the Poetry Project from 2001 to 2003, a wonderful tenure, and the Wednesday night coordinator from 2010 to 2011. She currently teaches poetry and writing at Rutgers and coordinates the intro to creative writing classes in the faculty and alumni readings. Joanna's so happy to have you here, and take it away.
Great, thank you. This has been just such an amazing event. So I was going to start by sharing a video. I just want to explain it a little bit. A lot of people here may know that David creates beautiful collages. Oh wait, I have some here by my desk. See, I didn't even think of that. So they're sticker collages that he makes, sometimes on postcards. And Elaine Eckley and I thought it would be nice to create a tribute to David where we would write a poem in response to his collages. So what you're going to see is a video of images of his collages with our poem that we wrote collaboratively. And then I'll read some of my own poems. Now I'll read some poems. This is the title poem of this book, To a New Era. If history is a circle, how long will it take to lick the lollipop and get to the empty core? Could there be a sentient creature sleeping in its center, a Tootsie Pop mermaid of history? If so, wake her up. Feed her the ghostly bodies created by Twitter bots and conspiracy tambourines. Let her destroy them with her split tongue. Sing to her of babies yet to know the meaning of disgust. Teach her to kick, to run on her fishy tail and karate chop the gears of time until they resemble steampunk frayed metal wings. Here, the radius of the sun can meet the radical endpoint of our hope, buttermilk, dolphin dreams, hot air balloons, oceanic longing and or weeping, and start again as pure, immaterial possibility. So the title of this poem kind of goes into the poem, so you'll see, it's enjammed. The cat we don't own sleeps on my chest and doesn't meow. Instead, it murmurs in the voice of my 81-year-old mother who is stuck in a cardiac hospital thousands of miles away. Okay, I admit it's not my mom's actual voice. The sound the animal makes is part growl, part purr, part metallic laugh. It's not really a cat either. It's half cat, half miniature rhino. When I dream, the chimera enters my eye holes and crawls around, searching for a subway car with wings so we can fly together over the veins of highways and splashy landfills. As my husband turns away, pulling the blanket towards him, I hold the not cat to my chest and I can hear my mother's heart under the animal's thick black fur. It's beating too fast, too irregular, so I know that it wants to escape its animal body, wants to stomp its feet in blood-red flamenco shoes, wants to cry out, to borrow the sun's bullhorn, to scream at anyone who'll listen. The next poem has a quote from David that starts it like an epigraph. David's quote is, "Ordinary unhappiness is a long poem." And the poem is called Ode to Unhappiness. Thank you, ordinary unhappiness, for the beep of the smoke alarm when the battery dies, the cloud of spoiled milk ruining beautiful, bitter coffee. Thank you for the ash-colored grout that will never get clean, for the smell of garbage we are too tired to haul down the stairs. Thank you for the luxury of that sliver of luck, the ability to turn off the cell and the television, to recycle the newspaper with the headline about toddlers and cages. Thank you for the fluke of the far away, for the dream about clear, wild deer walking through closed city windows. Thank you for late afternoon boredom, for ripped leggings and unaired sitcom pilots, for songs too remote to be required to hear. Thank you for the rustle of swinging car parts and inside-out violins, and for the warmth of your orange cat-like body, snuggling quietly between us, the ghost mouse of a future weirder sadness, wiggling slowly in your closed jaw. I'll just read two more short poems. We were on the way to the protest march or brunch. When I say my tweet is a bullet headed straight into the heart of capitalism, who is wearing a frayed Cookie Monster costume stolen from a West Texas frat house, what I mean is that words are the net that keep the acrobats from falling into the gaping mouths of the uncontrollable masses. And that this is why when I think there is a possibility for instant change, The color of my sunset Bellini looks more sunrise, less sunset. The cafe's white painting is suddenly more Mallarmé, less Architectural Digest, 1986. Okay, I'll just end with this little poem. This tiger burns the bones of William Blake, or self-portrait as poem. Oh, it's nice. I saw Maureen was here. I feel like I stole the double title thing from here, from Moreno. And so yeah, this poem has two titles. It's short. The body of this text resembles me before plastic surgery. The idea of the text resembles me after. Death isn't plural, just two-faced. If you want to become the red dress of poetry, you need to wear control top pantyhose. Without those terminal constraints, language could be liquid wasp, a head devoured by milky synapses and need. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joanna. That video was incredible. And without further ado, our final reader is the man who needs no introduction. Give it up, everyone, for the wonderful and deeply gentle David Shapiro. And David, you can turn on your... one moment. You can turn on your microphone now. David, you still have to turn on your microphone.
I have to turn on my microphone.
Brilliant. Take it away.
So I have time for, I think also for some small poems. But I wondered, since Fang and I both love, in the present tense, Meyer Shapiro, who died, but who's a great pluralist. For me, he was God. And I still remember the first time I met him, I said, do you think that the early Christians wore masks? And he said, yes, which accounts for the look of no look. How's your Aramaic? And so many times when he helped people like Delmo Schwartz. So I just wanted to recite a poem that came from a dream years ago from Meyer Shapiro. I fell with my father through space in a space module as round as your thumb. My father remarked of the earth, and my father remarked of the earth, and they had everything by twos or by one. It was better by far than to say the. It was better by far. Anyway, this poem ends. But here's a poem that I'm just working on. One line. It goes, I wandered lonely as a map. And that was that. That's one of my new forms that I like. I feel if I can write one poem, it'll be fine. Let's try the poem that's here in this book of mine. The Night Sky, and to Walter Benjamin. Best to use a dead and nervous language. The extraordinary effort will do nothing. The sun is so close to us, the moon of Pluto, even the newspaper's moon of Pluto so far away. The one thing Hamlet did not mention is that things might get better. In the clear sea, a little glass pulverized for my pleasure. You do your grief work, dream work, like homework. Someone lost his money in the night sky. Someone cut into the shape of dice, threw the dice against unbounded odds. Light from falling dice. Here's a poem that I got in a dream. I like getting my poems in dreams because I feel after I've dictated them like Milton's daughters to my sweet assistant, architecture. This is a poem that I simply found in a poem. 4 lines. Forced to sing, oh history, what you need is mimesis. A boy and Psyche once came together in a dream. A boy and Psyche once came together in a dream. Forced to sing, oh mimesis, what you need is history. In a dream, David and Psyche came together, forced to sing, oh history, on a bridge. What you need is a bridge. Cupid and Psyche once came together in a well. What you need is limitation, oh mastery. I don't mind height if I see such ships, bridge, sky, and water. Boy and Psyche once. What you need is imitation, oh force to sing. So it's true that a lot of these were written in my dreams, but it doesn't make it easier. Here, I've decided to go back to a time when I was 5 and wrote out so many poems. It's easier then to do it. Orange colored sky. My mother said I couldn't keep my hand off your face. I was always caressing your chin. We used to listen to a television program, you and I, and the guy sang a song called Orange Colored Sky. And his name was George. He'd say, George. So we wrote a letter to him, and I wrote it for you. And I said, I am 5 years old and a classical musician who plays the violin. And I really prefer Bach and Beethoven, but I like the way you sing Orange Colored Sky. And he read it out loud to all the people in the audience. And you heard it. And he said, this is a letter from a little boy, David Shapiro, Hobson Street, Newark. We each got a laugh. And a few small poems, that's it. On the border of the illusion, Phaedo condemned the death of Socrates. But in so doing, he missed a single day and rendered his own judgment like an entertained breeze. It was a jailer who introduced us. He was a jailer with no appetite. And you know how fire is delivered by children frittering it away in frozen speech. Men call this pleasure, like a place of rapport. But is it bliss to juggle the body, like a house with great pain, persuaded to stand? The swans change a lot before they discover gods they serve. He sat on his bed and had time to say a big thing. The window ascending at the corners of the cardboard world. That goes on, a sonnet in a sense. And I'm just going to read a new poem or so. Do we have time?
We absolutely have time.
Well, Lindsay seemed to like this poem, so I'm dedicating it to her. Cathedral. And oh, the difficult languages. And oh, the easy languages. Then you left. When you were a boat and I was a boat, we hid so much and so well, we were finally unable to find ourselves at all. Yes, we left the keys. Your fingers were our cathedral, because everything you did was sacred to me. And I'd like to read maybe 1 or 2 poems. I was going to read a poem that was just based on the linguistic solutions to anagrams for Jasper Johns, who's much in our mind. We send him all best wishes. Jasper Johns, a solution. Jar Jess Fun. Juno Jar Jess, Horn Pie, Raj Jesh Fawn, Jess Raj Fawn, Join Jar Less Hum Pro, Jar Jess Fawn, Bon Jar Jess, Jess Engine Far, O Pro, Raj Jess Fund, Junior Jar Jess Fun, Join Jar, Jess Horn Up, Jar Jess Fun, Join Jar Jess, Hop, Run, Jess Fun Jar, Jar Jess Fun, Join Jar Jess, Hop Earn, Jess Engine Jar, Hoppo, Jar Jess Fun, Raj Jesh Fun. So yes, I've been thinking a lot about John Asbury and how we'll go on when certain noble poets seem to be gone. Um, but still, that's what we were supposed to do. And I'll just read this poem, which goes on a bit, but is sort of passionate, from Neruda's I Want to Do to You What the Spring Does to the Cherry Trees. Neruda. I want to do to you what the summer does to your wardrobe. I want to do to you what the E does to Georges Perec. I want to do to you what the doorman does to the door. I want to do to you what the question mark does upside down. I want to do to you and with you what the song does with the breast. I want to do to you what the singular does to the plural. I want to do to you. We're being interrupted. John Cage once said, you know it's art if it can be interrupted. Art is that which can be interrupted. I want to do with you what the fire escape does for fire. I want to do to you what the air does to the dictionary. I want to do to you what the prose poem did for the poem. I want to do for you what May does for March. I want to do to you what the chamber does to the magma. I want to do to you, reclining, what the sign does to the anticline. I want to do for you what the wheelbarrow did for the good doctor. I want to do for you what the lipstick does to the lips. I want to do to you what a naked foot does to the clothed grass. I want you to do to me what the moss does to the moss garden. I want you to do with me what a stone garden does to eternity. I want you to do to me what the curve did to a diagonal. I want you to do with me what the wound did for Thomas. I want you to do for me what the moan does for the morning and the dove. I want you to do with me what the airplane did to the cloud. I want you to do with me what the tunnel did to the tennis ball. I want you to do with me what the words did to the song and what the song did back. I want you to do with me what the ion did for the dandelion. I want you to do with me what the tiger did to the lamb sticker. I want you to do for me what innocence did for experience. I want you to do with me what the wine did for the kid's kiss. I want you to do for me, with me, what the stiletto did to the eyelids. I want you to do to me what the violin did to the tambourine. I want you to do with me what truth did to sex. I want you to do with me what the skin did to the tattoo. It ends like this. I want you to do with me, to me, and for me what the vision did for the visionary. I want you to do with me what the bottom and top did for the top and the bottom. I want you to do with me what the cure did for the curator. I want to do with you what the candle did to the candle in the night spring bed. It's probably more than enough. I don't know. What's our time limit?
David, there's no time limit for you.
No time limits.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that makes me feel like I could take out the cantos and say what Ezra said. But instead, I'll just read you one little poem. I see that I've dedicated it to come. Dedication to come. Forgetting a dream. Forget the dream. Forget the poetry received in a dream. Forget New York. Forget language. Forget you love violent electric storms. Forget the slit opened. Forget a closed cloud, red and lips. Forget David Shapiro. Forget yourself. Buy and sell yourself. Forget the great globe itself. Forget the angels in Silesia. Forget provisions for the trip. Forget that face. Forget 8 arms for power. Forget peace. Forget relentless form. Forget whether it was an actor or a butcher or a traitor at night. Forget whether it was interpretation or amelioration. Forget. So I thank all my friends for coming so far away. But what else can we do except come together? And I thank all of them for being such a good audience. If one wants to know, my son is my last audience. He said, "Are you the boss of God? You are the boss of God? Nobody is the boss of God. Not me, not you. Are the angels the boss of God? Are you more famous than angels? God orders himself to do what he wants. I am the boss of this poem. I wrote it." I showed that to the old communist, who turned to my son and said, Howard Fast, "What does he give you for doing these poems?" And my son said, "No, he doesn't give me anything." And Fast said, "Ridiculous. Find some money for that poem." That's the way I feel about God. Anyway, so I thank you again. Somewhere in the middle distance where we all meet. And I thank all the people who work so hard to put these things together. One thinks it's not so difficult, but actually just going to one doctor too many is amazing. So we thank all of our friends. We thank Havel in jail and out of it. We are embarrassed at how badly our politics are. We just have the worst year of my life politically and ethically and metaphysically. And in friendship, we say goodbye and thank you. Okay. Now what happens?
Now, David, it's such a pleasure to have you in the Zoom. One moment. Here we go. David, it's such a pleasure to have you in the Zoom, curing us through dreams and dream revelation. And it's my pleasure to pass the mic to close us out to our publisher, artistic director, and captain of our ship, Fong H. Bui. He'll say a few words.
Thank you, Malvika. Thank you, David. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Joanne. It's been very moving. I didn't hear the whole entire reading, but I will later. I was on a meeting. But in any rate, when I think of David Shapiro, my friend, I think of his burning interior filled with surpo anxieties, racing thoughts, all calibrated with astonishing tempo and images. When I thought of Lou Asikov, I feel the same way, both of whom I met in the summer at mine Lillian Shapiro's home of 1988. I was barely a kid. We kept up our friendship and moving forward when Hurricane Sandy hit New York. It was October 2012. And that was a month that David was the guest critic. It was that whole entire page is section Heal Me, because my works of 25 years and 40% of the Brooklyn Rail archive were destroyed. In that section, David, guest critic pages, homage to Maya Shapiro. And I remember it's called 2 or 3 Things I Learned from Maya Shapiro. And it's super true. Without David friendship, Lou Ashikoff, and many others whom I met at the Shapiro's home, be it So Bello, Elizabeth Hartwick, Sir Isaiah Berlin, and all the extended artists who were students of Maya too at Columbia, Alan Capro and nameless other, I realized there was a whole symphony of communities. Every person who I think as a musician have their own unique sound. It was very moving. So without that friendship, I don't think the Brooklyn Rail is possible, because some point I wanted to recreate that community where cross-pollination, where poets and artists. And I remember reading David's beautiful long poem for Rudy Burkhart, Song for Rudy. And you can imagine that's the world that I wanted to recreate. But how can I do it without nostalgia? That's the key. So in anticipation, I'm grateful to all of you. This is also, Joanne, another great Shapiro collage that he would send me for so often, even once every month or so. So I collect them all. And look in Rimbaud's face now, I want to show you the symphony that I'm just described, which includes David's face in it, which I made the portrait when he was a guest critic in October issue in 2012. And here they are. So this is a symphony. I hope you can see it. That's one wall of the portraits, include musicians, composer, writers, critic, artists, filmmaker. You can see up there, Jonas Makers, and Ai Weiwei and others. Even Kenneth Frampton got included in the mix. And here's the beautiful face of David Shapiro.
Huh. I actually thought, I'm not sure that Hung knows how important he is, but I do love the idea that with this free situation, that he's been able to go on for so long. We don't get beaten up. We actually have a Columbia University, which with different dynamics became, like Maya Shapiro, what I called a restless pluralism. Bong, thank you for everything you've done. Never end.
Of course not, David. I love you. I love you all. I admire you all. Poets are the conscience of the rail. No poets ever make compromises. Don't tell the visual that, but the rail, we put the poets above everyone else's, of all the 7 arts, the art and humanities. So thank you. I'm grateful to you all. Thank you again for the beautiful reading. Can't wait to see you all in person to embrace and carry on our conversation. So thank you, David. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Charles. Back to you, Malvika.
Thank you to the poets.
Thank you, the poets.
A few closing notes. This has been really incandescent. Thank you all for being in this space. It's a blessing. As always, we'll share the recording of today's reading on our YouTube archives, so it'll be available in a day or two if you'd like to revisit this magical space. I know I will. And we do this every day here at the Rail, so please join us again tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern. We're starting an hour earlier, when we are joined by the wonderful voices that support literary publishing at Cave Canem, a home for Black poetry. This will be for our 5th installment of our Publishing in Transit series. We'll be joined by poets and Cave Canem 2021 Book Prize winners Chekube Danladi, Brian Janet, and Wale Ayinyala, in conversation with Programs Manager Malcolm Tariq and Literary Critic Cole Swenson. That will be at noon Eastern, right here in the Zoom. I can't recommend it enough. And other than that, thank you all so much. This has been just a blessing, and I'll invite you to turn on your microphones now.
The Jewish ideal is to give away rather than keep and hoarding. The Jewish ideal, talked a lot this year, is give it away. You don't need that much, said our rabbi. You don't need as much as you think you do. And Maya Shapiro is a very great example. And I think of Bong as being in that lifelong capacity to love. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
David.
you all so much.
Thank you, Bong.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
Mike.
you.
This has been
Thank you,
incredible.
Joanna.
Thank you,
Thank you, everyone. Wonderful readings today.
Thank you,
Thank
Charles.
you.
I made some mistakes.
You made no mistakes.
Thank you.
I
David,
worried
this was
about that.
fantastic.
Remember, David, remember what Maya once quoted Khan: from the crooked timber of humanities, nothing ever came out straight.
I wrote a poem about that. It's really a wonderful, wonderful instance here.
Thank you. Thank you, Kate. Thank you again. Thank you, Charles. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you, everyone.
Hi, Naomi.
Hi, wonderful, wonderful day.
So glad that you tuned in. Hi, Susan.
That's my sister. I have a lot
Couldn't
of
agree
sisters.
more.
That was as strange as I met my student Rosa Alcala, who was suddenly my teacher. And it's very moving. The stickers were something that happened, and I never took them seriously until John Ashbery actually said, I like your collages more than my collages. It's so moving for him to say that. And yeah, there's so much to do.
Yes. Let's do a show of your collages soon, David.
It's a great idea. Great.
I once turned to a businessman from Harvard and I stuck a sticker on his suit and he didn't like it. I was regarded as a stickerist.
Oh,
Joanna, that video was phenomenal. I can't even imagine how you began putting that together, but it was beautiful.
Oh, thanks.
Really is gorgeous.
great, Joanna. Really, it was great.
All the good lines are Lane's.
Which brings us to mind. Yes, we're gonna get lunch before I go to the next meeting. Sorry, you. Thank you, and hope to see you all again. Thank you, Michael.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much,
Bye,
David.
everyone.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Lindsay, as well.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Big shout out.